What's up, gamers? Welcome to Battle Mallet Podcast, episode 52, Rivals Review, Skabbik's Plaguepack, and the Paths of Prophecy. For anyone that isn't familiar, the Battle Mallet Podcast is the journey of three busy gamers on their annual trip to the Nova Open Convention, playing games that they love and balancing life with those games. My name is Jerod Johnson. Tonight, I am joined by Trace Hyde.
Hello.
And Jason Tabled Noob Murray.
The corruption is among us.
Yep. Did I get those names right? Because it's been like 2 months since we've recorded. So
who are you?
Yeah, right.
Trace and I see each other all the time, but you're a figment of our imagination.
That's true. That's where I like to live.
Yeah. And it's a three busy gamers and sometimes a plus one.
Sometimes a plus one.
Hey, that plus one, we love you. He's coming to Nova.
He is coming to Nova. So, in this episode, for context, it is sadly August 9th. It is 2 months and a day after we released our last episode. So we are going to cover the Skabbik's Plaguepack Warband and the Paths of Prophecy Rivals deck. Although I don't know why we're covering the Paths of Prophecy Rivals deck, because literally right before we started recording, I got on the Games Workshop website and it is expunged. So you can't even pre-order it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So we knew it was delayed. That was in the Warcom article. So who knows when this will come out? But
somebody saw it was foretold because it is a prophetic deck. So
that is true.
But that happened with that
was Beastbound Assault too.
Beastbound Assault they took from the website too. Because I checked every day, and then I ordered it from overseas, and I received it the same day I received the one that was shipped in America. So
hey. But didn't you also receive Fearsome Fortress?
Yeah, they sent me the wrong deck first, and then I had to get the new deck, and they literally came the same day.
Afterwards. So the bulk
of this
episode,
Staples and use my old cards.
Yeah, that's
fine.
Right.
I'll just print them off on Staples and then just put them in over top of old cards. It's fine.
They're the same. I'm sure
it's
the
same
cards,
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, just print them off the interwebs.
Yeah,
from somebody. Not that the cards are on the internet anywhere, because that would be IP infringement.
Oh, isn't there an official GW deck builder?
Like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Way back in Night Vault, there truly was. It wasn't a bad.
I think it was. I think it was even during Shadespire.
It was at the latter. Yeah, it was the latter part of Shadespire into Night Vault, and it wasn't bad. It was fine.
Yeah, it didn't do Beastgrave though, right?
But community do what community gonna do, and they make a better one.
Yep. So most of this article will be our standard Rival/Nemesis review of that warband and that deck. I do want to warn our avid Underworlds focused listeners that it has been a while since we've recorded together, and the Nova Open is right around the corner. So our intro is probably going to be a little longer than normal and probably skew away from Warhammer Underworlds drastically. So if you're here for that Rivals review of the warband and the deck, please jump into the show notes, grab that timestamp, jump to that timestamp. You'll get to the content that you want, and you won't have to listen to us talk about things like Marvel Crisis Protocol and Legions Imperialis and Warhammer 40K. And our lives.
What is Legions? What I don't even know how to say that. Legions Epic.
It's fine. Yes.
It'll soon be expunged from the website as well, so it's fine.
Yeah, right. Another delay. Anyway, so
damn you, GW.
I know, right? So, with all of that, I guess it's time to talk about what we've been up to.
New segment.
Oh, the new segment. I forgot about the
new segment.
New segment. Yeah. So we're three dads. Jason's the most excited. So intro us in.
Yeah. So we are three dads, and I don't know about all of you out there in internet land, but I love a good dad joke. My kids write it in my Father's Day cards. My daughter has a whole book of bad dad jokes. I love them. They're stupid. So after the intro, we're going to have a dad joke. And tonight, it's presented by Mr. Trace.
Okay. So the other day, my wife asked me if I'd seen the dog bowl. And I just told her I didn't know that he did.
But
Nice. Sweet.
I love it because I love to bowl too. So it's a fantastic, silly dad joke. So anyway, on to our normal banter. We've all been very, very busy. We've all actually met up a lot. But why don't we share with the listeners what you've been up to, Jerod? What's been going on the last 2 months?
Oh my gosh, I get to go first?
Traveling.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Traveling for work, traveling for not work, working, watching my son swim at a pool a ton. So I think we've talked about this. My schedule kind of got blown up because my son is swimming year round, and that eats into the evenings. And apparently, like, I have to take him to practice and pick him up from practice or whatever. So
balancing life and games is part of our podcast.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so it makes it hard to get out.
Drive his Power Wheel, like, can you just load up and get on there?
You would think, but you know, kids these days.
I've seen folks on YouTube that have put like their DeWalt drill batteries onto Power Wheels. I think that would work great. I think
it would
go real fast.
A quarter mile, and then you drain the battery. But
it's all right. He can
walk. But I mean, it's been good and it's been fun. But it has meant that I, for a long time, was missing out on our regular Underworlds meetups. But I've been able to make it to the past few. But even with that, I've actually played a decent amount of Underworlds, gotten a decent number of games in, trying to nail down what I'm taking to the Nova Open Convention for the Underworlds Clash, which, by the way, is sold out. So 32 players signed up. If trends follow, I can imagine a world in which we do not have all 32 players there. I will try to manifest that all 32 players show up so that we can have a good solid showing, a good solid tournament for when that comes out. And I think we'll get into this probably as we cycle through what we've been up to and what we're thinking and all of those things. But, you know, as Jason, Trace, and I have been talking about what to bring, we're taking a look at other tournaments, other events that are running. And I mean, there are some pretty clear front runners when it comes to strength or popularity, whatever the case is. Cough, cough, Ephelum, cough, cough. But like, everything is being played. And I think it makes it tough to choose what to play, because you can either, we don't live in a world where you can just pick the meta or the counter meta. I think there are a lot of really good choices out there, especially in the Nemesis format. So I've been playing some Farstriders. I've been playing some Crimson Court. I've been playing some Felmorn. I've been playing some Cunning Crew. So
yeah, I think, but you make a good point there, and that might be our local meta, or the way the three of us play, is like when you say it's real hard to gauge the meta. There are definitely front runners, like, right, you have Heffalumps and Dormatan, which are probably like up there, followed by Gnarlspear Pack. At least that's like in my research that I've done, that seems to be the ones that kind of spike up. But if Heffalumps out there, then fast aggro is the counter, right? That's, I mean, and we've seen Nova in the past doesn't normally follow the current meta. It's typically very aggro. So that throws a whole nother thing in there too, is like the players that are coming to Nova, if they're playing aggro, does Heffalump go down in popularity? Like, is that actually the bad choice? Because if you get in there and wreck face fast, they can be held in check. And does that bring something else up?
Right.
Like, so it's a cool thing to have. I think you've covered your three, and you have played a lot of games. Anything else that you've been up to?
So played our first game of Combat Patrol. And
it was fantastic, right?
It was. I had a great time.
Yeah. Eldar.
Oh my gosh, Jason.
Squeaky.
Yeah.
11:30.
Yeah, I got
you
it.
Dirty Eldar player.
Dirty Eldar. They are potent, to say the least. Having not played 40K in a year, and
I feel like you should have just said you should have just used portent there.
Yeah, portent.
because that's what they do. They weave
the
fates.
fortune.
Mhm.
Yeah, the fates, weaving fates.
Like, are they really that like? So you've played one game, right?
I played one game. Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was nice to get that on the table. We all went to that Thursday meetup.
Yep.
We all played 40K. Danny came out, so there's a little more sharing of what we've been up to, and it was I had fun as well because I was there. I played Necrons, but I had fun because I have no idea. I didn't read the rules. I just used the Stellar GW app. I love that app.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that app is so good.
It's like I click the button, it tells me what the rule is. Fantastic. It took me 2 hours to play a combat patrol, but I don't care. It was fun. But so did you fall back in love with 40K, or you're still like, it's fun, I'm going to try it? Maybe.
I don't know that I ever felt, well, I fell out of love with the game. But the universe will forever grab me. And the other thing that helps with that is, by and large, the Dawn of Fire series has been really well written and a lot of fun to read, and it's really cool. It is heavily Imperium, which makes sense, right? It is following the Great Crusades, the Indomitus Crusade and all of the arms of that. But you have seen throughout all 6 books now, like a lot of different factions within the Imperium and what they're up to, how they feel, how the rift has affected them. So you're seeing the Guard, you're seeing Custodes, you're seeing Sisters of Silence, you're seeing Night Houses, you're seeing Black Templar, you're seeing Battle Sisters, Space Wolves, and Remembrancers, the Inquisition. So you're getting a lot of different perspectives of the Indomitus Crusade across all of these different worlds. There are some overarching themes. A few of the books are very well interconnected. The rest of them are more or less standalone, and there'll be some slight references. But it has helped keep me grounded in the 40K universe, and being able to get those models with that aesthetic on the table and play out a battle just felt good. So
Even though you're playing Filthy Eldar.
Even though I'm playing Filthy Eldar. It was my first army, so there's a bit of a nostalgia touch there too.
I mean, for the full context for our listeners, so Trace and I fell in love with Crusade when Crusade came out in 40K.
9th edition.
8th
Yes,
edition.
right? No, it was
8th
right
edition.
at the
8th
9th.
edition.
Yeah. Was it 9th?
It was 9th. 2 years ago.
Well, whatever. Long time ago. Long time ago when like our first
3
get
years
together.
ago.
Yeah, it was
3.
It was COVID.
3
3
years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, Trace and I learned that game at the couples retreat in the mountains. And it was fantastic. And we came back all hyped up, playing Crusade. I was playing Space Marines. You were playing Death Guard. Jerod was trying to do some Aeneid stuff. And it didn't work. You got raffle stomped time and time again. And you're like, this is stupid. I don't want to play anymore. And then 40K just fizzled. Now Eldar is the dominant war band. Look at my Wonderworld's coming in there. And you're like, I want to play 40K all the time. Connection? I mean, I don't. Oh, it was my first army. Oh, bull. Oh, another one.
Oh, gosh, Jason.
We were juiced when we came back from the mountains, though. I remember that. Like Jason and I were juiced for 40K, and that had been a long time since we had felt that way.
Yeah. So. And maybe it'll hook us this time. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I had fun. Trace, did you enjoy your combat patrol game?
I did. I mean, I got pinned down and smashed by Tyranids, but it was fine. Like, there's just too many bodies. I took a AdMech combat patrol against the Tyranid combat patrol, which I can tell you is a significant difference in the number of models and shots being fired.
Yeah,
it was
like
fine.
Like I had just a ton of shots, right? That's what you're referring to.
No. No. Just the speed of the Tyranids and the small size of the board and stuff like that. Like I was not able to get out of my area before he was on me, which was fine. Like I still had fun, and I was just really using it as a opportunity to learn the rules. But I really enjoyed it. I look forward to playing some more games whenever we find some time to dedicate to some combat patrol. And 40K, the broader game of 40K, because I know Danny wants to play, some 1,000-point games and larger if possible. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the app is a major boon to the game that it's not had in the past. Because as somebody who used the Age of Sigmar app a lot, having that app and being able to like reference things really quickly is just huge, because you don't have to go fumbling through your rule book. You can just click on the rule if you need it and pull it up.
Yep.
It's just a really good resource to have while you're at the table. So yeah, that's
yeah.
And I'm assuming we're moving on to me now for other things, or are we continue with Jerod? Or just
I'm just asking question here. So like,
yeah.
Let's go with the flow. Jerod, painting wise, you painted something to get on this combat patrol train, right?
Yeah. So I think I had painted the Guardians the last time we recorded, or I was in the midst of painting those. But I finished up the Farseer, and I have done just the barest amount of work on the jet bikes at this point. But I mean, it's been fun to paint. I enjoy painting when I have time to do it. Yeah.
And I will echo what you said about the Dawn of Fire series. There are some books that drag, and when I say books, I'm an audio listener because I'm in the car all the time. But I found every single book, you get to a point and it just hits this critical mass, and it's like, then I can't stop. Like, I just want to know what's going on. And there is some chaos stuff in there. You didn't mention, like, they follow the familiars and the sorcerers a little bit. So
that's true. Yeah.
So it is a really good series. And what I like about it, it's kind of current, although it feels like 40K may have moved a little bit further in the storyline than where the books are now.
Yeah.
But it's still cool nonetheless.
Yeah. I'll be excited to see when the Dawn of Fire series catches up with Son of the Forest.
Yes.
When the lion
So we're not there, like we're not through the Nihilus yet.
I don't think that we have gotten through the Rift.
Yeah. Okay.
And
you're just 2 books ahead of me, so I thought maybe the Black Templar book they crossed the thing.
I'm not at liberty to say. No, even at so there are glimmers of passages through at the end of book 6.
Fantastic. I look forward to getting there.
Yeah. It's good. I think the Nachman Gauntlet is established. The one from the campaign series from 9th edition. But
is that where the Crimson Fist just shot everybody because of Gene Steer cult?
Yes. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah. That's
your favorite.
That has been that has been referenced in the books.
Yeah. But Gilliman is looking for other passages through the Rift. So
cool. I can't wait to get there. And they do a really good job at talking about a Primarch, right? Like, they humanize it, but make it more than a human. And they do that. There's a lot of books that talk about the Primarchs, and they all do that very well. So.
Yeah. And the latest book, you get to see the Primarch through the eyes of a Sister of Battle. So, somebody that is on the side of the Imperium where the Emperor is a god and is worshipped, which is not where Gilliman falls. But you get to see him through her eyes, and it's pretty cool. So,
awesome.
Yeah, but I think that's it.
You think that's it? Else. So games, a bunch of games on Underworlds, 1 game of 40K, 1 painted model. And that's it.
A handful, yeah. Yep. And then some excitement around 2 things. So we've got Epic, Legions Imperialis.
Nah, there's no excitement there.
Yeah. Well, there was some excitement, and then it got delayed. We were all super duper hopeful that either we would have Epic miniatures in hand and be able to play Epic at Nova, or that there would be a demo for us to do. And it doesn't look like either of those are going to be an option anymore. But earlier this week, I watched all of my Epic money evaporate right before my eyes because Joy Toy released the teaser for the Dread Knight. And for anybody that hasn't listened to all of our episodes, we all got to take home Invictor Tactical Warsuits from our Kill Team Live championship at Nova last year.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you, Eddie. Exactly. And as excited as I was about the Invictor Tactical Warsuit, as somebody who doesn't play vanilla Space Marines at all, like this Dread Knight is just crazy good.
It is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. If you haven't seen the Twitter little post from Joy Toy, go check it out.
Yeah.
This one has moving parts.
Yeah. Battery powered Psy cannon or Gatling silencer. Yeah. It's awesome.
It's pretty cool. So, but you mentioned Epic, that, whatever,
Legions
game.
Imperialis.
Yeah. Sure. Epic.
Yep.
Heresy Epic is really what I should call it. But
yes.
You mentioned that. Yeah, that's anyone that's listened for some time, anyone that's talked to me in person. I've never played Epic or played that scale of game, but it is the one thing that has intrigued me. And I said, if this ever comes out, I'm all in. Well, I'm all in, but somebody else went all in because Trace, your hobby progress, because we were so pumped, really revolved around Epic and is revolving around Epic. So what do you got going on over there, man? I can see it in the background on the video. It's pretty
that's
sweet.
true. It is.
I've done a lot of horse trading. First off, traded some things that I would never use because I bought them in the height of 40K clouds, and I've since traded that. So I have acquired a in-box Warlord Titan
for Epic, yeah.
For Epic,
yes,
nice
in-box with the Sun Fury Annihilators and the big laser beams on top. Have not put him together yet because I've been doing other things, and I also managed to get my hands on the Adeptus Titanicus starter set, which has 2 Reavers, 2 Warhounds, and 2 Knights in it. None of this is put together yet because I've been painting 40K stuff, and I have been painting some Underworld stuff and a little bit of Marvel Crisis Protocol. But I've also been printing the ever-loving crap out of epic scale buildings on my 3D printer. So for my birthday, I got a 3D printer. It is a FDM printer. It is an Elegoo Neptune 3 Pro, for those who are curious. And I have gotten my hands on some STLs for epic scale buildings that are the same style as what was in the Legions or the Titanicus box set a long time ago. They're like cross buildings, kind of.
Yep.
And then there's some that are like more box shapes, but they have more intricacies to them. So I've been printing those out. I've got like probably 10 or 12 now that I've printed out. I've gotten a lot of the big ones done that are like line of sight blocking. And then from what I've read, the base sizes for the infantry who can go on top of buildings, from what I understand, they're 25 millimeter, which will fit on top of a lot of the buildings that I have printed so far, or in the cover of the buildings that I've printed so far. So
so those bases on the infantry stands are 25 mil?
25 mil, yep.
I didn't read that. And when you look at it, because there's so many models on it, look good.
And they're so
tiny,
flat.
man.
Wow. And they're so flat too. So that it's you think it's a 40 mil base. Like when
I literally thought they were bigger. Yeah.
When you look at it, you think it's a 40 mil base, but because they've said like it'll look like they're floating on a platform on the 25 mils if they didn't shorten it. So they've got these new custom bases that they're making. I guess they're like part of the sprue, I would imagine. So they're thinner, they're more wafery. So they look wider. So they look like a 40 mil base, but they are 25 mils.
Wow. Them is going to be some small boys.
Yep.
That is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. But yeah, I was a lot more excited for Epic than I thought I was going to be. I mean, I had always talked about, like, when Jason talked about Epic, I was like, oh yeah, I'd be down for Epic. Because one of my most fond memories when I first got into the hobby was we were at my friend Seth's house, and my friend Justin was over there, and he was playing, what was the name of the game? He was playing something on his Sega Saturn. We're going to date ourselves now. Sega Saturn. And the Games Workshop catalog was always a thing at the house. So like he had it, and I was like laying across his bed looking at the GW catalog, the mail order catalog. And I would always stop at the Epic stuff because I always thought it was so cool looking, but we weren't interested in that at the time. And we were all playing fantasy, like, 3rd and 4th edition fantasy at that time. And so it was like, it was all fantasy all the time, but I was always be amazed by like the Titans and the tiny tanks and some of the Eldar stuff, like the Eldar Phantom Titans and stuff like that. They were super cool looking. So I've always been intrigued by it. And so when they showed all the preview for this stuff, I was like, I'm in trouble. I'm in big trouble.
Yeah, we always talked about getting into Adeptus Titanicus, but it just never resonated with me because, like, well, it did resonate. Like, I love the models, but I like infantry. And now my mind is still blown that the base is going to be that small. I keep looking down at my mat, like, what is 25 mil? And it's just like, holy cow, I got to paint like 5 dudes on a stand that is that big of a base. Like, it's going to be pretty sweet.
Bolters and shoulders, baby. Bolters and shoulders.
That's right. But regardless of when it comes out, I am hyped. You even painted some of your terrain, which looked fantastic. The moss effects that you did on it were really cool.
Yeah, it was super fast. It's mostly rattle can, 1 dry brush, and then like some moss color and like a little bit of an airbrush of a snake bite leather through the thing to make like scorch effects. It's super easy. So that was my test piece. That was a piece that I printed at a smaller scale just to see, like, one, if my printer could do it, and then what the detail would be like. And I've found that, like, some of the problems with the printer are because it's FDM. There's like some ridge lines around the rubble. So it doesn't produce, like, when you think about rubble on GW models, it's always very granular looking. It doesn't look that way. So the way that I found it kind of around that is just to put some texture paste on top of the places where it's supposed to be rubble, and it solves that problem without it.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So I'm really excited about that. I have not put together the Titans yet. I want to do the Titans after we come back from Nova because I need to focus on Underworld's warbands that I'm going to play or whatever until that time.
I don't think you mentioned painting Underworlds. I can't remember 2 months ago if Pandemonium was complete at that time, but if not, I'll just give it a shout out. Trace kindly painted my Pandemonium for me, and it is by far my favorite looking warband in my collection. He hit it out of the park. He did some really cool things where, like, Heffalump has these tones of colors on him, like, like a darkish purple, red almost, and like a blue. And then those colors transcend out to the demons or the entities. But like the blue goes to 2 of them and the red goes to the other 2. And it really ties together, and it's very, very bright, which is very different for my collection. So thank you. And they're fantastic. I'm sure there's pictures in the Discord. So nicely done, sir.
Yeah. Happy to do it anytime.
Oh, really? Hold on. Let me just grab this trunk of stuff and head up to
trek up to north of the wall. Just drop a bunch of stuff off to be painted.
The Grumpkins and Snarks might take off with it if you leave it on the doorstep.
That's true.
So I've been just dabbling at different things. I've been messing around painting some Starblood Stalkers. I've got the Headman's Curse primed. And I might do a like quick and dirty paint tutorial for that.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Thinking something like along the lines of like a Dementor from Harry Potter. I think that would be really cool with some like really bright colored bases to like offset the black. So quick and dirty paint scheme, maybe. Yeah. So that's what I've been working on. What about you, buddy? Well, I've been playing a lot too, but we can get to that later.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've really carried the torch at a lot of the Monday meetups. So, I guess in the last 2 months, I procured a Knight Porphyrion. Is that how you say this?
Yeah, the Porphyrion.
Yep. Porphyrion for, Adeptus Titanicus. Model that I've eyed forever. I just didn't buy it because I knew once I bought it, then I would go down the rabbit hole. So I picked up that box, put that together. Just one of them. I still have the other one to assemble. It was cool to assemble a model of this scale. It's about the size of a Space Marine. So really cool. And then, I got on that painting kick just kind of from the last episode carried over. I don't know if I shared on the last episode if I painted my Spider-Man model from the starter box of Marvel Crisis Protocol, only now to find out this month that he's being updated again.
It's fine. It's not AMG's fault that it took you 4 years to paint your model, Jason.
And also I appreciate them updating sculpts that desperately needed some help, because those original sculpts, while they're iconic because they're the first ones, there is a giant talent and technology difference between the original box and what they produce now. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah. And I think even their understanding of like what makes a good model, like
Correct.
what makes a good pose, right? Mm-hmm. There are a lot more models with a foot up pointing at things now, which is very attractive to me. We've discovered.
Everything Jerod likes to play is got a tactical rock and is pointing at something.
Yeah. That was a fun revelation on a hobby night. Literally stepping away from my computer to look at my hobby cabinet and be like, oh my gosh, literally all of my favorite
Hearing
models.
Your mind unravel audibly in the background was amazing.
Yeah. Like, oh, Mr. Sinister is got his foot up on something and is pointing at something. King Velmorn has his foot up on something and is pointing at something. Farstrider.
The list went on and on and on. It just went on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It's beautiful. But all of that to say,
Jerod has a type.
I do have a type.
So anyway, I painted Spider-Man, and I understand what you're saying. I guess the reason that I even bring it up, and the new models are amazing. I'm gonna buy it because I love the new Captain America model. Yeah. He's like better than I don't own anything but Sam and original Cap, so adding that one to my collection, that is the one I'd want to play. When I think of Cap, he looks like that instead of the original model. But my problem with it has nothing to do with AMG or them releasing the box, and has everything to do with the internet community. Because if GW was to do the same thing of saying like, hey, here's all these new sculpts from 4 years ago, the internet would explode with how GW is terrible and we hate them. And AMG's like applauded, like, oh, thanks for moving the set forward. Thanks for redesigning these sculpts. Thanks. Like, I hate hypocrisy. And that's what we're in this type of scenario.
But you're expunging all my Space Marines. I can't use them anymore. Not true.
After 30 years.
Oh, I'm aware.
Well, it's not 30 years, but most of those kits are 20 years old. And listen, even though, so then you could say, oh yeah, like they're expunging, they're getting rid of all this stuff. There's still current day equivalents, which is the same thing AMG is doing. And it just boggles my mind why there's so much hate around it.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
And let's be real, all those models that the GW is basically last chancing to buy on their site. The Space Marine preview is like just around the corner. So
that's true.
You're probably going to get straight up Primaris replacements for pretty much everything on that list. So quit your whinging, as old
as James Workshop would say.
Yeah, and like, I mean, it doesn't invalidate an army I have, but it completely upgrades an army I have. So I have a fully painted Crimson Fists, like first company not chapter, firstborn army complete. Like it is Vanguard vets, it is Stern Guard, it is drop pods, it is Land Raiders, it's Pedro Cantor, it's old boxy dreadnoughts. It's complete. It's an awesome army. I love to play it. And the cool thing is I can still play it. It just won't look as cool because it's not the new Primaris like Stern Guard, and it's not going to be the new Primaris Assault Intercessors because my guys don't have jump packs. They come out of the drop pods, but it's still there. In even the Raven Wing, like the bikes, I can just rebase them and use them if I really, really wanted to. Like they could be stand-ins. The only thing currently that I lost were land speeders. And, I think that there will be more land speeders that come out. Like they do have the newer land speeders. So anyway, that's my little tangent, but the Spider-Man came out fantastic. I really enjoyed painting him if we hadn't talked about him before. And then I finished my Primaris, first edition Primaris Crimson Fist army, which was a commission paint, and I had a couple of squads that I wanted to add Power Fist to. It was a total of, I think, 11 Space Marines is what I painted in the month. And basically now I can have 6 squads of 5 with Power Fists, and they came out like I had a super fun time painting them. They came out really well. I have one that I have to put decals on currently, but he's probably my favorite. I learned more on the way, like matte varnishing and how that kind of blends your transitions out even more and make sure that contrast paint doesn't come off to my grubby fingers. I messed up with the matte varnishing, so I had to like smooth it out. So learned how to do that. Yeah, there was
been a big growth period for you. There's lots that's happened for you in the past 2 months.
Yeah. The only thing is it was disrupted because of work. So work got really, really busy. I wasn't able, we went on vacation, so I wasn't able to attend the meetup, and then work kind of got in the way of me priming models. But what really helped me with my painting and hobby, and the reason I enjoy it now, is because instead of looking at something like I have to complete it, because that was always my, I got to paint this model so I can play with this model. I now view that whole thing as let me learn how to do X. And for whatever reason, that has changed my enjoyment of the hobby. Let me learn how to paint like this. And then more importantly, set it up so I can repeat it over and over and over again, learn from this process. And then if I mess up, it doesn't matter because I can repaint it. And I don't know why. Maybe it was painting so much MCP like I did that it just changed the way I viewed the 40K stuff. I'm able to paint at a lower level and get it done and be satisfied with it. And I'm trying to learn every single time that I turn on my hobby, thing. The other big thing is I didn't finish those models in one day. It was spread out over 3 weeks, which normally I don't do. I finish, get done, and go. Other hobby progress, we're almost wrapping up the current Underworlds League. So I did play a ton. Like Jerod and Trace, I'm trying to figure out what to take to Nova. Obviously Pandemonium's in the conversation. I've played a ton of those. Not really to get ready for Nova, but for other reasons that, I just like to play and figure out why the frick something's broken. And then I guess Elephant Soul Raid are kind of high on my chart because I think there's potential there, but man, it's such a brain exercise for me to play them. I love it, but I don't know if that's what I want to do going into Nova. Believe it or not, GSP is spiked up because I have yet to play them. And then someone the other day threw this like nice little fish thing out there. They're like, I'm surprised you're not playing. And that's a Procro guard. So the last couple nights I've been really trying to like get back into this Procro card mindset and see if I can resurrect that warband. We talked about Combat Patrol where I played my Necrons and Danny destroyed me with his Black Templars. The only other thing I guess I'll shout out that I'm pretty excited about is the hobby bunker in the White Dwarf. So I didn't get my White Dwarf shipped to me, and so I'm like a month behind, and I don't normally read the White Dwarf from cover to cover. Like I kind of spin around and grab sections and read it. But this one, for some reason, that hobby bunker, it gravitated to me, and I think it's a great idea. I'd like to do some of that stuff, and whether it's play games or do hobby challenges and stuff like that, it's intrigued me. I'm going to try to convert it into something that we can do for the group where it's not just so 40K or AOS centric, but really had my hobby juices stimulated through that article. And then last but not least, I guess is to just like preview Nova a little bit. Really excited to get up there and really not having a plan. We still have to decide what we're going to play, what we're going to do. There are a ton of games that I want to check out while we're up there, like Shatterpoint and In Country and Arena Rex, like all these games that are just random that I want to kind of try out. And Trace is like, what is he talking about? So
you do you, boo-boo. Whatever you want to do.
So that's kind of where we're at from hobby progress and pie in the sky. Before we get into the full episode, one big shout out this week, because we are prepping for Nova, because we have not updated anything in 2 months. I scoured the interwebs. Trace made some decks as well and provided some stuff. And then our tech wizard of Jerod updated the Nemesis database. I was not able to secure everyone's name or where that deck came from. So if you go onto the deck library and notice that your deck is up there, please shoot us a message so we can properly give you credit. But we added 12 decks?
At least 12.
Yeah.
At least 12.
And for reference, Jason has scoured like recent tournaments, recent events and stuff. I think most of what he pulled was out of BCP. But I think there were other sources
I saw those links to the one that was at Element Games, the top 2 at Element Games too.
Okay, cool.
They're in the Discord as well. So
nice. Sweet. Cool. So I think that's it. That's not bad. A 43-minute intro. Thanks to everyone who stuck along and joined us for this ride. But I think with that, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we will talk about Skabbik's Plaguepack.
And we're back. Gentlemen, what's worse than a stinky rat?
6 stinky rats.
That is correct. There are 6 stinky rats in this warband that we're about to talk through. I am going to briefly review the fighter cards because these images are available for you to look and read for yourselves on the Warhammer community site. So I'll just briefly go over them and kind of hit some high points of what I feel are notable statistics on these fighters. We'll start with Skabbik. So Skabbik is the leader of this warband. Like Jerod said, this is a 6-fighter warband. There is 1 4-wound fighter, 2 3-wound fighters, 2 2-wound fighters with an asterisk, which we will cover in a minute, and then 1 1-wound fighter.
The best 1-wound fighter in the game.
Is pretty cool. So Skabbik Plague Seeker is has the keywords priest and befouler. He is a 4-move fighter. has 1 dodge and 4 wounds. He has a pretty nice little solid attack on his profile. It's a range 2, 2 hammers, and 2 damage with Grievous 1. Which is, I love some 2 range attacks. I think that they're great. They give you a lot of positional flexibility. And with a 4 move fighter, like getting in there and having a 6 threat range is pretty great. The inspiration on these fighters is across the whole warband. So you only have to do this condition 1 time and everybody inspires. And that is 2 or more territories are corrupted by your warband. Well, how do you corrupt a territory, you might ask? Well, there is a plot card with this warband as well. The plot card reads, at the end of an action phase, a player's and or no one's territory are corrupted by your warband if there are 1 or more of the following true. 2 or more friendly fighters are in that territory. 1 or more friendly befoulers are on an objective in that territory. When a territory becomes corrupted, it remains corrupted until the end of the next action phase, even if this is a result of a power card. A territory can be corrupted by multiple warbands at the same time. So, this is a positional warband. Obviously, you want to try and get in all the different territories. You want to have some fighters in yours, fighters in midboard, and fighters in enemy territory. If you do that, you inspire the warband. Skabbik also has a special ability called Befouler. At the start of each round, stagger each enemy fighter adjacent to this fighter. So just an inbuilt stagger. If you're next to a fighter, they get a stagger token, which makes you more accurate, which is awesome. When he is inspired, the main thing that changes for him is he goes to 1 shield, and then he gains an additional die, but switches to Furies on his attack. So he gets 3 dice for Fury for 2 damage with Grievous. Rabidius is the next fighter. Rabidius Skench. He is your heavy hitter of the warband. Move 4, 1 dodge, 3 wounds. Same inspire condition. Same befouler ability like Skabbik has. He has a plague sensor. So this is like the sensor bearer of the plague monks in this warband. Range 2 Fury, 3 damage.
Ouch.
Tasty. He also has he's smelly. You smell him before you see him, probably. He also has a flailing plague sensor, which is a scything attack of 1 range, 2 fury, 2 damage. So he's like your beater for the warband, but he's also pretty quick. When he inspires, no change on his top row stats. Still keeps his 1 dodge. He goes to 2 hammers for his accuracy on his plague sensor, though, and gains a die on his scything attack. So he is your whirligig, smash 'em up fighter for the warband. Next, we have Itchit. He is a minion. Also, Rabidius is a minion as well, which is key. So if all those Beastbound Assault players out here, this warband might have some pull for your minions.
Yeah, all 5 fighters other than leader are minion, which is a pretty good keyword to have.
It is, yeah.
Actually, I mean, we can just say it now. Every other fighter other than Skabbik is a minion in this warband.
Yep. Is that not just what I said? All other fighters other than leader or minion?
All 5 others are
all 5
minions.
others.
Yeah, there's 5 other ones. I know that every time you look, you think it's 4, but it's 5.
I know.
So Rabidius is also a befouler, and Itchit is also a befouler. So Itchit is also a 4 move, 1 dodge, 3 wounds. He is not super accurate. He's got a 2 fury, 1 damage attack, but that's not where the money is with this particular card. He has an inbuilt action called Book of Woe. Action: roll 1 magic dice for each enemy fighter in the same territory as this fighter. On a roll of a focus, swirly, deal 1 damage to that fighter. So blanket damage for 1 action. If you're lucky enough, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. When he inspires, the only thing that changes on him is he gets another additional damage, and he goes to channels for his Book of Woe action. So he goes to like a 50% chance to. Well, no.
Yeah, it goes from 33% chance to 50%.
It is 50%.
50%. Yeah, because he's not casting a spell, so crits will never be successes.
Yep, that's right. So he goes to a 50% chance to deal damage to anybody in a territory, which is awesome. He does not gain priest when he's inspired. Next one is Poxlix. Yes, we'll talk about that later probably. Poxlix is the next fighter. Same movement, four movement, 1 dodge, 2 wounds. So he's kind of squishy. A 3 fury, 1 damage attack at range 1 with Grievous. No additional other abilities on this fighter. However, when you go to the inspired side, he goes to 1 shield and 3 wounds. So he gains a wound, kind of like the dwarves of old.
Yep.
Yeah, is that the only other warband that we've seen that gains a wound on inspired?
Dwarves are the only ones that I know of that gain wounds on the inspired side.
It's very rare, right?
It's very rare. Yep. And he also gains additional fury on his attack. So he goes to 4 fury with Grievous 1 and 1 damage. So pretty accurate on his inspired side.
Yeah.
The last of the substantial rats is Ricket. He is 4 move, 1 dodge, 2 wounds, range 2, 2 fury, 1 damage with Grievous 1. There's a lot of Grievous in this warband. And then when he inspires, he also goes to 1 shield and 3 wounds, up from 2. And then he gains an additional flat damage on his attack. And last but not least, Skritter. He is the bestest of little pet rats. He is move 5, 1 dodge, 1 wound. He has an infected bite, the worst bite you'll ever feel, with his 1 range, 2 fury, 1 damage. However, his real worth lies in his special ability called Worthless.
Oh, I see what you did there.
If this fighter would be taken out of action, remove it from the battlefield and clear all counters and persisting effects from this fighter. It is not taken out of action.
Yeah.
It's key.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he is the key to the warband. Just to clarify, so you have, for the wounds upgrades, you have Fire Slayers, you have Thunderic, then you also have vampires. What's Gorath?
Oh, Gorath does.
Well, Gorath goes, he gets a wound when he's
that's bloodthirsty.
And then
inspired.
The Gorehulk when he's like enraged does the same.
So
there's definitely others out there, but we all know how powerful it is to gain a wound. And then in Nemesis, going to like the way we play, going from 2 to 3 is a substantial increase. It's like you're going from 1 attack to 2 attacks that you can take. So, really, really cool there. And Skabbik, the Worthless, is not worthless. He's your key to corruption.
Skritter. Yeah, so Skritter is also a befouler. So Skritter can scuttle across midfield, jump on an objective, and corrupt the territory. If you're going second, you can do that as your last activation and not have to worry about it.
He can scuttle to midfield and sit on an objective.
He can also do that, where he can scuttle wherever you want to, because range 5, I have discovered in my previous few games, is that move 5 is huge.
It is a big deal. And actually, so speaking of that, I think it's worth noting that these rats are not blanket move 5.
They are not. They're mostly move 4.
They're tankier.
But they have the same range.
I think that's
they do, yeah. All of the range.
With the range 2, they have the same effective threat range, but they are not.
Yeah.
They don't have the same effective threat range as like Skittershank, but they're still fast enough to get where they need to go and hit something. Which is
and that I think that plays into like the first pass when you look at this warband. You have really bad defense and not the greatest wounds and pretty mediocre attack action. Like a lot of them are on Furies, right? Or 2 dice or so like you're like, oh man. But like they still 4 move is still substantial.
Yep.
Right. And the other, like the range 2 is pretty good. And then as we get into the cards really offset some of this other stuff that they can't do. So first glance, when I looked at this warband, I'm like, meh, it's like mediocre. Like, we don't want no mediocre. No, we don't want no mediocre. But I really like how they differentiate. And as we get into play style, I really want to talk about Itch It. But keep in mind, you only need one fighter on an objective in a territory to corrupt it.
That's right.
And Itch It really feels like he could secure your side of the board really well. So,
yeah, I agree. Just to wrap up the fighter cards real quick, the only thing that changes on Skritter is he gains an additional dodge on his inspired side. So if you're able to get him inspired, he becomes a little more tanky. But quite honestly, if somebody's wasting an attack on Skritter, I mean, that's a win for you.
To do. Yeah.
It's a win for you. So it's great. So that being said, you have any other notes on the fighter cards themselves before we move on to objectives?
Nope.
Cool. All right. So, there's a lot of, I feel that there's a lot of really good objectives in this deck. So this was kind of difficult for me to go through and figure out what I liked the most. But Jason, why don't we start with you, bud? I think you probably had a little bit more focus on what you think the warband's good at or not. So why don't you start us off with the objective that you like?
Sure. I know one I want, like, in my mind. I just don't remember what it's called. Oh my Lord.
Jerod wants you to go while Jason's gathering his thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So I'm going to go with Rabid Harbinger. So bear in mind, so this is our standard Rivals review. So these aren't necessarily the best cards in the deck, but these are the cards that you most likely want to see early. So it's going to kind of help you get your warband going. So Rabid Harbingers is a surge. It's a duel. Score this immediately after an opponent's activation if your warband holds 2 or more objectives and 1 or more friendly befoulers are on an objective token in your territory. So you could use some clever pushes, do this with 1 activation and maybe 1 push in your power step and be on your territory. And yeah. So it's the old, I don't remember the name of that objective anymore. Score. Is this, yeah, because we don't, it's so far gone. The one glory.
Hold 2, surge, score a glory.
Whatever that thing was called.
Yeah, I forgot the name.
Yeah, and the card I'm thinking about, I think, is actually in the Rivals deck. That's why I couldn't find it.
Nice.
But the key thing here with this one is, remember, it's after an opponent's activation step. That's so right. There is a chance to counter it, but it's just 2 objectives. It can be in your territory. It could be in no man's territory.
You just need 1 in yours. You need a befouler
in yours.
Yep. And then the other one can be anywhere else.
My first action is Itch It to an objective in the back of my board. Like,
you mean?
No,
Itch It.
Yeah, Itch It.
Itch It. Yeah. Yep.
Itch It.
Who is a befouler is going to whatever objective is in the back of my board, and I'm just going to use that Book of Woe, like, as
anytime somebody comes in. Yep.
Like, if you're going to invade my territory, okay, fine. Blue. Like, I might be able to just plink you off the board. Not saying that I'm going to do that, but it's definitely a deterrent, right?
Right.
And I think that objective is really good to start off with. So great job there, Jerod.
Yeah, no problem.
Just as planned.
My first objective would be Scuttling Horde. And this one is score immediately after your warband's 3rd or successive move action made in the same phase. So I don't have to roll any dice. If I charge, it counts as a move and an attack.
Yep.
And I just need 3 moves. And there may be some cards to help us with that.
There may be, yeah.
Maybe.
There could be.
So, I think I can do 3 moves in a turn, especially if this is the first turn.
Yeah. It might get a little tough in the third phase when maybe you only have 2 rats left, but
yeah.
But I could just move somebody 3 times.
Correct. You could move.
Move.
So I'll go, and I am going to pick Corrupting the Land. Scores in an end phase if no one's and or enemy territory are corrupted by your warband. This card is very easy to score, especially early game. You have 6 fighters, and there's nothing that the thing that I like about this inspiration condition is the only way that it can be disrupted is if your fighters get killed or if they get pushed out of territory. So if you're deep enough into territory or you're on midboard, there's, as long as you have the fighters there or one person is on a objective in no man's land, which is very popular these days with Delvers and Fearsome Fortress and all those things, there's going to be objective tokens there. So it's very easy to do. It's great.
Yeah, and I think turn 1, you just want anything in these 3 cards that you've all selected or that we've selected play into the Inspire. Right. And I know they don't gain a ton through Inspiring, but really those back 2 minions that gain the 2 wounds are kind of what you're trying to get to Inspire, as well as Skitter to get that extra dodge. And the rest of the objectives, there are some in there for corrupting territories. So it's kind of important. You want to keep that corruption going. But to your point, Trace, it's not easy because they can push you or your fighter could just die.
Right.
But I think that the way that the fighters are designed or the way that you could use them give your opponent bad choices. Right? Like you can totally charge in Ricket deep into enemy territory, right? And he is a nothing fighter doing a nothing attack.
You mean Skritter?
No, Ricket.
No,
Ricket.
He means Ricket. He knows what he's talking about.
Like, put him in there, and then if my opponent chooses to kill him, that's an activation to go get him, which opens up. Maybe I get 2 people into no man's territory, right? Or if he doesn't go or she doesn't go and kill that person, then my last activation, maybe I run Skitter across, and now I have 2 people on, and Skitter's on an objective. So, okay, you can go kill Skitter and stop it, but you don't get any glory out of it.
Right. Not only do you not get any glory, but it's also going to block any take out of action.
That's right.
Stuff.
Yeah. Like so a lot of the surges that are in the game are take a fighter out of action with an attack action in your activation. So this doesn't count for that. So your planned thing to get that surge out of your hand and get to your next card doesn't work.
Yeah.
Which is great.
So let's see the additional tools, because I think the Warband really shines in the gambits.
Absolutely.
And, we don't have enough to talk about. We only get to pick 3, and there's 10 I want to talk.
I know, right? Yeah. But again, these are what we want to see early.
Correct. Yeah. So I'll start us off. And the card that I'll pick is Move. Choose a friendly minion. There's 5 in this Warband. Choose a friendly minion. The chosen minion makes a move action. The only thing that you need to be aware of with this card is that it requires your leader to be alive. So
that's true.
That's your only real point of caution about this. A free move action is awesome. It doesn't care if you have a charge token. It doesn't care if anything like that. You can just move the fighter. It's great.
Yep. Do you know what would be awesome on top of that?
What?
Is if there's an upgrade that lets a fighter become a leader in case your leader dies.
Oh, maybe. That would be epic. But
be sweet.
But right now we're talking about ploys. So
we should. Yep.
So
that
Jerod,
was also not on the list. So I wanted.
It is not. It is not. But
all
we can talk about that when we get there.
Who's going next?
Jerod, you are.
Okay. Well, we'll move right along.
Sounds good.
And I'm going to pick move.
I did that
Just
one.
Just kidding. I know. I'm so tired already. And that's really bad. All right. Overpowering odors. This is a reaction. Play this during a friendly fighter's range 1 or range 2 attack action after the defense roll. If that attack action would fail, and there were one or more successes in the attack roll, add 1 to the number of successes rolled by the attacker. So as long as you don't crit me out,
yeah,
and you prevent my attack because you matched my successes, this attack is just going to go through.
And play this card.
Yeah, it's not a reroll.
Nope.
It's just here, have another success.
Yep. And with a 3 damage fighter at range 2.
Or a 2 damage fighter with crit Grievous. So I crit, you
Correct.
crit.
Yeah.
Oh.
Look at that.
I guess I'll just crit hit.
It goes through.
Now there's a 3 damage hit that just went through. It's amazing. I love it.
What a stinky card.
It is stinky.
Yeah, but even more importantly, so there's they're on to Fury.
That's right.
Yep.
So this is a huge boost to a lot of your fighters for accuracy.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a really good card because you get to choose when you play it too. So I whiffed.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's done in a really interesting way, right? Like it's not like, I mean, we've seen other cards like this before, but they've always been really feel bads cards. I don't feel like that this one's a feel bads card. I think that this is just like, I'm just gonna do this.
It's not as bad as the one where if you had matched successes,
including no successes,
no successes, right? This one requires you to at least roll a success.
Yes, you have to roll a success.
Yep. And that's where I think it removes the feels bad because they're mostly on Furies.
I agree with that.
Yep.
So Jason, bring us home on the Gambits.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a lot here. I'm sorry. So Vial of Blood is the next one that we've selected as a group. Because this warband is all about making your opponent make a decision. And they don't know that you have this card. But Vial Blood is reaction. Play this during an enemy fighter's range 1 or range 2 attack action after the deal damage step. If the target would be taken out of action, -1 damage to a minimum of 1 from that enemy fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions. This effect persists until that enemy fighter is taken out of action or makes a successful range 1 and range 2 attack. And you're like, wow, that's a mouthful. And I don't really see it because I lost a fighter. But if you add that into the mix of what we already have going on bad decisions here that you're trying to put your opponent in, if you're playing this card and they take out Skitter, like now their 2 damage attack is 1. And it is 1 until they make a successful attack action. It doesn't go away. And then more importantly, if they take out a 3 wound fighter, like if you have one of those coveted 3 damage fighters, you can make them 2. And if they choose to attack one of your minions that you've put into a dangle bro position, well, now he's a little more manageable for the next attack that he does, or maybe more because he misses. So it's just a really cool counter piece.
Well, and something of note too is this window, when that happens, we talked about this on Monday when we were playing, remember? There is a reaction window after the damage step before the target is taken out of action. So if this would deal enough damage to take the fighter out of action, this triggers, and then the fighter that they targeted is not taken out of action. Because it's -1 damage prior to the taken out of action check.
It's
after the deal damage. So the damage has already been dealt.
Oh, no. But remember, we looked at this. So there's the deal damage step window, right?
Correct.
So it's after the deal damage step, and then you check to see the fighter is taken out of action.
But they've still taken the damage.
So the difference here is the card that you're talking about. This is a card from...
I'm thinking about the heal card.
Yeah. So this is an upgrade for Zandar Street Seekers. It hits the same window, but it's a heal 1.
Right.
After the deal damage step before the taken out of action check. So that one triggers because it's a heal 1.
That's right.
The damage has already been dealt in this case. So
I'm reading this as if they would be taken out of action, -1 damage. So it effectively does the same thing.
Yeah. It's not the card, the ploy for Ducunnan Crew does that.
Right. Yep.
So you reduce the damage dealt.
Ignore me. Ignore me.
No, but I mean, when I first read this card, I thought it was that too.
Yeah.
So
So
I think it's an important conversation to have.
Yeah, they still go out of fighter. Like if the target would be taken out of action, right? So you have to hit that trigger, -1 damage. I see how you could go that way given other cards, but it doesn't reduce the damage. It changes his next attack.
Right.
But some other things to note that we did not call out. There are 2 push cards.
I know, shocking.
In this Gambit deck, which can really help you score or corrupt or do all the other things that we were talking about. There's one that's a push 2 hexes, and then one that's just push 1.
Yeah, but so there's one push 2 hexes, and then the other one lets you push 2 fighters 1 hex.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a reroll Gambit card, so like again, getting your accuracy up, especially if you're coming in late round with Rabidus.
Yep.
Can reroll one of those attack dice. And then
there's also a card that just straight up corrupts a territory.
Yeah. With a 2/3 chance to just corrupt the territory. Yeah. Jason's right. There are 10 Gambits, and we want to talk about all of them.
Yes. And then, they have the reverse rebound card here, which is Rancid Vomit. And although is only going to go off 33% of the time, that's why it's a rebound card. Yeah. I think that it's worth talking about because this card could really spike damage, especially early game. Just think about, like, you have all these reroll cards, or you have the efficiency to get an attack through. And let's say Rabidus comes across, he smacks a 5 wound fighter with 3 damage. And then you're like, all right, let's rebound it and Rancid Vomit and take a 33% chance to just take that fighter right out of action. Yeah. Yes, you're playing the odds. It's not a great card from like it's going to work every time.
But when it hits,
it does work, it's going to change the game.
Yeah. What did we used to say about rebound? It wins you 33% of the games you would have lost.
That's right.
Yes.
I think that's what this card does.
Yep. And it doesn't necessarily have to be against the person you attack, right? It's just choose an adjacent fighter, 2 damage. So I come in and bop 1 for 3, kill 1, and you got another 2. Like, and it's it really 33%. You
could bomb it on the fish.
It works every time. 33% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah. So anyway, tons of good Gambits. I think it's really where it shines, and the Gambits to me really make it play so your opponent has to make bad decisions.
Yeah, so. I agree with that. I think there's some really good upgrades too. So why don't we move on to those? Jason, you're full of it tonight. So why don't you just start us off?
I am full of it. I'm fired up for certain. I'm just gonna go. So Rotted Flesh. It's a great card art.
I like this card.
You cannot give it to a large fighter. I really like that they're starting to include those sentences. Even like you read this, you're like, why does that have to be on this card in this warband? But it just like future proofs a lot of the cards for anything that may come out or combinations that may exist out there. So I like that. -1 damage to a minimum of 1 from enemy fighter attack actions that target this fighter while this fighter is in a territory corrupted by your warband. And that's why I think it's real important for turn 1 to focus on getting the corruption, because there's a couple of objectives and cards that kind of flow off this. In -1 damage, it doesn't break, it just stays there. So if you're in a corrupted territory, you always get -1 damage. It's really good, especially on your leader.
Yeah.
Agreed. Jerod, what about you?
Yeah, so I like Pox-Ridden Lucidity. So this is a reaction. Use this after this fighter's first successful range 1 or range 2 attack action in a round. Again, so just want to caveat here that this is future proofing, right? Nobody in this warband has anything other than range 1 and range 2 attack actions, but they don't want you to be able to throw on like the Star Maw and be able to do this. So after this fighter's first successful range 1 or range 2 attack action in a round, pick 1, draw 1 card, or draw 1 objective, then place 1 objective card on the bottom of your objective deck. So this gives you opportunities to draw cards. Again, it's one you want to see early, so you get more chances to use this ability. But it's going to let you either get through your power deck faster or cycle objectives without having to use an activation to do that. And note that the place one objective card on the bottom of your objective deck is after the draw. So you'll have 4
Options.
objectives in your hand. And if you're like, oh, actually, what I have in my hand is better than this 4th one that I just drew, you can just put that 4th one on the bottom. But it opens up opportunities to massage your deck. Again, it's going to be one that you want to see early. Like this has definitely diminishing returns in value as you go towards late game. But it's really powerful if it goes off.
Yeah, and it's restricted to the 3 fighters, right? But now with salvage.
Salvage, yep.
Excuse me, those are not as much of a risk. But here's a little wombo combo for you. You put it on Rabitus.
And then he whirligigs.
And then he scything whirligigs.
Yep. It increases your chances of it.
I can react every time, though.
First successful attack action.
Oh, just the first.
It's broken. It's broken up into the.
Oh yeah. If it was,
that would be nuts.
Amazing.
Just basically ditch your
whole.
Just
draw my whole power deck. Yeah,
but
it's
anyway,
just the first.
If I'm making 3 attack actions, I'm going to get it at least once, right?
Right. Yeah, that's the hope. Is that if you can go in and whirligig, then you'll get something popping out. So
I like it.
Yep, that's what I like. All right, what's left, Trace?
I'm a simple man. So I'm just going with the nice +1 damage to range 1 and range 2 attack actions while this fighter has 1 or more charge tokens and or wound counters.
I like it.
So these are the old great strengths that we love, but they've learned that they need to add additional conditions to these so that they're not just auto takes for everything all the time. This one's still an auto take, but I mean,
Huh. But when does a fighter get a charge token?
After the move action.
Oh, so if you're charging, it's just like you get it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
I like
Love it.
I also like the flavor text. Hit hard, die fast, no mercy. Oh, the no mercy part I added.
Oh.
I have to hope that that's a slight Cobra Kai reference, but
maybe.
I thought you were talking about Mighty Ducks, like.
Oh no.
So I do want to give a shout out to the artist for these cards too.
Oh my gosh.
Because the art on these cards is terrifyingly beautiful.
Yeah.
It
harkens back to that gritty.
Oh yeah. Like the old Warhammer
Shadespire
Fantasy. Well, the old Warhammer Fantasy art even. Like it's got some mild John Blanche vibes to it. Like there's just the artwork on all these is just awesome. So if I doubt the person who made the art is listening to this, but if you are amazing. So great job.
Yeah. Kudos.
So with that,
no, I'm not done.
Okay.
I'm not done with the upgrades.
Oh,
just like with Gambits, there are some other ones that I really want to go through. And typically we really stick to the 3. Maybe we'll throw 1 or 2 here in. But the reason I want to talk about these is because I think that this warband has the Soul Raid feel. I think at first blush, like first pass, it's just like, how does it not work? And I can tell you, playing this Rivals deck, you think it's not going to work, and then it does. The warband's fun to play if you can kind of unlock it next level. But I want to talk about like Voice of the Grey Corruptor. So I had already talked about putting Itchit in the backfield, right, and just letting him corrupt my territory. Well, if I get this Voice of the Corruptor out, it's restricted just to him. This fighter is now a priest. If one or more friendly leaders are out of action, this fighter is the leader, and then an action that the territory this fighter is in is corrupted by your warband.
Oh my gosh.
So like, especially late game, if you're trying to get out some of your objectives that need corrupted territory, like, and your other fighters are dead, you can just do this. And because the way that it'll work is you'll corrupt it during the round and it'll last through the end phase.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like a card that if the numbers do start to swing not in your favor, you can still work to achieve your Inspire or your objective hand by doing it. So I think
I'd
that
also
one
say
is
it's not
beautiful.
I'd also say it's not a bad card to have early because you can. That action is not predicated on the leader being dead. You can do the action
that's
anytime.
true.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's just if Skabbik is dead, then you become the leader.
Right.
But you become a priest automatically, and you also gain the action automatically. So you could draw this early, and you'd be happy. Like you just
that's true.
Chill with it, and yeah, it's good.
And there's other like combos in there because there's a ploy that makes you a befaller, right? And that lasts. I'm trying to. It's a gambit, I thought, where you just play it and then choose a minion, and you can either pick Gravis or you can make them a befaller, and that'll affect to the end of the round. And like if you did that, you could then put like nauseous vapors onto them, like, or is your last attack or your last move of the round, if you go second, do you have it on a throwaway fighter you run across, and then you're dealing additional damage to everybody at the end of the action phase. Like there's just a lot of sneaky ways in this deck to either get damage across or to do what your goal is. Glorious Sacrifice, like again, making someone make a bad decision. You put that upgrade on a fighter. If they take that fighter out of action, they're going to corrupt that territory, which triggers other things in your deck. Or if it is corrupted, you're going to gain a glory point if they take them out of action. So that's kind of like, the other cards that we've had in the past of you throw that on a fighter that's in their territory and say, okay, go ahead and make a decision. Either I'm going to corrupt it or you're going to give me a glory. Do you even want to attack this fighter?
Right.
So anyway, I'm going to stop now, but I'm very excited about this warband. I'm very excited that it is not straightforward. And I love that it's 6 fighters, and I love the little intricacies that are already in this Rivals deck.
Yeah. Agreed. New player rating.
Silver.
Yep. Agreed. It's not as straightforward as you want it to be. I think that the floor is a little high, but I think the ceiling is real high.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
This warband could go real bad for like a new player just because you have to have activation.
There's a lot of positional pieces to it. Stuff. There's a lot of they're not super sturdy fighters to begin with, so you have to like think about your actions really carefully. Yeah.
There's a lot of targets early game.
So speaking of the positional piece, like boards, like you're looking for a more flexible deployment, if I'm not mistaken. So something that can be pretty diverse. Like you've got 6 fighters, so you're taking up all but one of the starting hexes anyway. So you want to try and find things that are either, I mean, you're not slow, so being more centrally placed on your board is not always a bad thing. Because you can still get to opponent's territory from middle hexes on your board, so it's not that big of a deal. What about play style, Jason? What do you think that they play?
Play style is definitely flex aggro, and what I think where they transition is like early game, if everything works in your favor, is kind of like position, hold objectives, get that corruption, and then late game you're trying to maximize the range 2 out of your fighters, like because you're going to get the more attacks you get second round and third round, the better they're going to be. But if you get that inspire out of the way, you're inspired. You still want to work to continue the corruption. But if your leader gets 2 attacks in the same round, that's pretty good. If Rabidus survives, okay, I get 2. And then heck, if Ricket's still there, he's range 2 as well. So although I think Ricket is my dangle bro. That's the one I'm probably getting rid of.
Probably.
Yeah, he is.
I will say, to go back to boards briefly, don't put lethal hexes on your board. Don't go run out there and put ultimatum engines down as your board, like with 3 lethal hexes all over the place. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's a bad idea. Don't do that.
So I mean, you probably want to avoid blocked hexes too, just so you have more maneuverability, more places to put objectives.
And with the range 2, that could potentially hinder you too. So that's something to consider as well. if you're playing against this, kill the Befoulers. That makes a lot of the deck go. It also really stymies the Inspire condition if you can kill the Befoulers.
You can ping Skritter down and not have to waste an activation.
Yeah, like if he's on an objective and you've got something that deals a damage to a fighter on an objective with a ploy or whatever, like that's probably the best way to take him out so you're not wasting activations or whatever. And then Nemesis deck recommendations. What are you thinking you might pair?
So we already have a Void Curse one up that I built on the site, and I think Void Curse plays really well into this warband. Like it kind of doubles down on everything they want to do with moving. They get a couple of objectives. It's still a first pass, but I had a hard time. Like to be honest, I was at 13 gambits and 12 upgrades and 13 objectives, and you can make a case for, the way that I selected back and forth with any of those. But I think that getting Rabidus the Void Curse right away, like you don't care. Like he actually gets better because he's on a shield instead of a dodge.
Yep.
The only fighter that has an action that is impacted is Itch It. The other ones, I go on a shield. I have to make attack actions range 1 or range 2. I
can't be driven back.
Oh, no.
That is real big too, to help with your positioning. So
I also created one. I don't know if Jerod put it on the site or not, but I made one with Terrible Toxins just from a theme perspective.
Oh yeah, that's themey.
I think it also has I think it's got some good options too, because they want to be aggressive. There's a lot of cards in there that require some upgrades, and there's also additional -1 damage upgrades in there and stuff like that. So I think that's another good pairing too. It's a little bit more intricate, but I think if you can get it to fire, it would be fun because you're debuffing your opponent by using the toxins. You also gain some pretty potent upgrades through the poison upgrades that then trigger a lot of the objectives too. So there's some fun there too. But we have mused about this warband for quite a while, and we need to hustle to get through our.
Don't forget about Beastbound Assault. That's all
I was going to say, the one thing that we do need to mention is Beastbound Assault, because so much scores off of things being
that's correct. Minions or
beasts, or having a denizen upgrade. So,
and there's also one objective in that deck that just requires multiple move actions, and for you to be in 3 different territories at different points of the game, which is very easily solved with this warband.
Yeah. A double move or a move in a
move.
Ploy.
Well, yeah. So like you have your ploy, your ploy in here, so you only have to do really one activation to do it. If it's early in your hand, so you move to central board, then you use your ploy to move in deep into enemy territory, for a single glory, like just for doing some move actions, which is great.
Yep. I like it.
Yeah. So we'll wrap this up, and when we come back, we will discuss Paths of Prophecy.
And we're back, and we're going to talk about the Rivals deck that's coming out, to us at some point in hopefully the near future here in the US. But it's always great to get another Rivals deck and to go through this. So Mathematician's Revenge is the Rivals deck that we'll be reviewing tonight. And I can't wait to talk about all the objectives, because this is something that we've missed for a long time in the game. And that is like actual objective numbers on the objectives matter. There have been a sprinkle here or there, but this deck, the Mathematician is there and he wants to see those numbers. So I'm excited to get it. We'll get our final thoughts after we go through a couple of cards, but where do we start with objectives? And I'm sorry, boys, I'm going to take the first one because I am fired up tonight and I want to talk about this first objective, right? Am I missing something, Jerod? Okay, do it.
No, you're good. You're good.
Do it.
Held
do it.
In a Bloody Fist. Score this immediately after opponent's activation step if 1 or more friendly fighters are each holding 1 or more objectives and 1 or more of those fighters have 1 or more move counters for 1 glory. Score immediately After opponent's activation, pick a lethal hex, run through the lethal hex in the back of your board on an objective. You score 1 glory. Thank you very much. This is the old play style that we used to have way back in the day. It's so funny that it's back. It is very nice that it's after an opponent's activation step, so there is a slight chance to counter, but sacrifice yourself. Start the glory train.
Calculated risk called. It wants its score back.
Yep.
All right. What's the second objective you'd like to pick, Trace?
My first pick for the objectives is Devoted Offerings, Surge, Hybrid. Score this immediately after you play your third or subsequent ploy in the same action phase, or you draw your third or subsequent power card in the same action phase. Also, passive AF. We've seen this before. There's other cards and other warbands that do this, and they're always included in your deck. Like,
yep.
You're gonna go through your power card.
Yeah. And
like
with salvage
being
a thing.
Right. If you salvage, like I say that you have it's great. It's super easy. Now mind you, you have to have 3 ploys in your hand to do it, or you just spend your whole turn just drawing power cards and then just.
Well, turn 1 is to move through a lethal hex and get on that objective.
That's correct. And then you draw power cards the rest.
One activation, and the next 3 activations are to draw 3 power cards,
and you end up with 3 glory or 2 glory at the end of it. So it's great.
That's right.
It's awesome.
I mean, so salvage is something that's out there, right? And it is key to note that it is only ploy. So like Gambit cards don't. The Gambit
spells don't count.
Gambit spells don't count.
It's definitely says
and upgrades
ploys
do not count.
So, but like the salvage, like late game, I know in some of my decks, I'm salvaging like 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, cool. I got it. Yay.
Yeah. Yep.
Jerod, bring us home with the third.
Right. So I figure we should actually talk about some prophetic paths, maybe, I guess, a little bit in this deck. So this is a sign from the gods, hybrid, scoring an end phase if your warband holds objective 3 or your warband holds objectives 1 and 2. So some flexibility. It is 1 glory in phase, which is not like the new hotness in today's day and age. But I think the flexibility coupled with some cleverness in the gambits and upgrades, plus maybe warband specific gambits and upgrades are going to let you score this fairly easily.
I would agree.
So. Yeah, I would agree. A sign from the gods is definitely there. It really should just be sign from the mathematician, because remember, this deck is Mathematician's Revenge. So with that, I have to point out a couple of other cards just to get the theme of this deck going. Remember that it's very objective or based and focused. So the numbers do matter. A lot of these cards say precisely. So they add up to precisely 15. They add up to precisely 9. So those cards are really cool, and I'm very glad that the numbers matter again. But more importantly, that it's not just hold 2 and 3. Like you can get a combination to add up to 5, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more complicated, but it also has some flexibility to it, which is great.
Yes.
And then I think there's some cards in here that we may talk about. I can't remember what all we kind of.
Yeah, if we don't talk about them, we will.
Yeah, we'll talk about them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So moving on to the gambits, Jerod, just keep us going here.
Well, let's do it. So I will pick Fair Fortune, choose a friendly fighter, give the chosen fighter an upgrade from your hand. Do not spend any glory points when you play that card. Definitely want this early. When you play this card, if your warband holds 3 or more objectives, draw 1 power card. So I've just played a gambit, probably on 3 objectives because I want to be there anyway because of everything else going on in this deck. And I just drew a card. So I'm a third of my way towards scoring whatever it was, devoted offerings anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're Godsworn Hunt, this card goes in. Inspire. I'm inspired. I'm hitting you. Here we go.
Yep.
Trace, what else you got for us?
So the ploy that I really like in Calculus Clairvoyance is a pack sealed in blood. Choose a friendly fighter that is holding an objective. Deal 1 damage to the chosen fighter. After that fighter has dealt damage, if your warband holds 3 or more objectives, draw 3 power cards.
What?
Draw 3.
You play one ploy. You play one ploy. You draw 3 power cards. You score an objective.
Huh.
That's amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be on 3 objectives, but
that's correct. But you also just kill Skritter. Here you go. That's
nice. He's got to be. He can't do that on him because he has to be holding an objective, and he's a beast.
Yeah.
Oh, or can he?
Or can he?
Oh, maybe. It remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen at the end of this.
Things have been prophesied.
I know. So the third and final one that we'll bring up here for what you want in your starting hand is Slinking in there. Choose a friendly fighter, push the chosen fighter 1 hex. Push the chosen fighter up to 2 hexes instead if the chosen fighter would end up with that push on an objective token. So this is like Treasure Lust, I believe. Is that the card from the dwarfs? I think so. Two hexes is a long way. And it's a push, so it can set up a lot of these hold objectives without spending an activation. Really cool tool to have in your hand, and we all love the pushes. So
we do.
We did not talk about all of them. Is there anything else that you guys would like to mention?
Don't be so pushy.
Okay.
Yep. No. Yeah. No.
Just the only one that I can think of is the ploy that I think allows you to adjust. Is that an upgrade or a ploy that allows you to adjust the value of a?
Those are all upgrades that we'll get to.
Yeah. Okay.
There's definitely some heal tech in here. I can't believe, Jerod, you want to talk about Easily Distracted because it is like the most updated version of Distraction. And we all love Distraction, but it is weird, right? So it's choose an enemy fighter, push the chosen fighter 1 hex. Then your opponent chooses another fighter and they push the chosen fighter 2 hexes.
Not worth it.
No, you don't think so?
No, I mean, it depends, right? I mean, how important is my positioning or how important is like their positioning? So, okay, great. I choose an enemy fighter and I push the chosen fighter 1 hex. Then my opponent can pick any other fighter. Not mine, not just mine. They could also push theirs.
Yes.
So they can't push the original pushy, but yeah, I don't think like allowing your opponent to reposition any fighter 2 hexes at the cost of repositioning one of their fighters 1 hex. I mean, I could think of some instances where it might be worth it, but I think in most cases it will not be.
Okay. Yeah,
that's my opinion.
Unless I'm completely wiped off the table and then they have to push 2 of their fighters.
Oh.
Yeah. But if I'm tabled, it's probably going pretty bad for me anyway. So
right. Yep.
All right. Yeah. Cool. Moving on to upgrades. Trace, what do you got for upgrades?
Since -1 damage cards are a theme for us as of late, I'm just gonna pick Inviolate Prophet. So this is not a -1 damage. This is a -1 dice to a minimum of 1 from attack actions that target this fighter. If the attacker is not adjacent to this fighter and this fighter is holding an objective, you want to be on objectives for this deck anyway. So you're probably going to be on an objective. Otherwise, you're probably not going to put this card on a fighter anyway. But it just reduces the chances of them getting knocked off, or reduces the chances of them getting killed. So it's just great.
Yeah, from range too.
From range, right? Yeah. So like as long as it's range 2 or 3 or 4, if you're friggin' FLM. So as long as you're not adjacent, this is a nice little debuff card that you can put on to keep yourself on that objective longer.
Cool, Jerod.
Nothing special.
Oh, okay.
So for the purposes of holding objectives, this fighter is not considered to be a beast. While this fighter is on a feature token, that token is treated as an objective token with a value of 0. So now Skritter can hold objectives, but not just hold objectives, hold any feature token and treat it as an objective token. So they could hold like an available feature token that was placed on the board. They could hold a feature token that has been flipped. And they count it as holding an objective. So this could go a long way towards allowing you to score those hold 3 objectives or be on 3 objectives. It's also worth noting that it is not restricted to beasts.
That's
so
right.
You could put this on any fighter, and any fighter sitting on any feature token is considered to be holding an objective.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really going to help. It's not going to help you with the precisely. It's not going to prevent the precisely's though.
Yeah, because it's 0, right?
Right.
Well, that leads me to our last like kind of pick, and I think it's probably the most versatile card in this deck with getting this deck to fire, and that's called Watchful Eye. It's an upgrade at the start of the end phase. Before you or your opponent score objective cards, you can add or subtract 1 to a minimum of 0 from the value of the objective token this fighter is holding until the end of that phase. So basically, for one end phase, I get to say I'm holding objective 3 when I'm only holding objective 2, or like I'm holding objective 6 if I'm holding objective 5, which is pretty necessary to score some of the cards you have. It makes it so you don't have to hold all the objectives on the board.
Right.
You do have to be very careful because the way that the objectives are stacked, like it's precisely 9 or it's precisely 6, you're not scoring those cards in the same end phase.
Right.
Right. Unless you have nothing special and then you're holding a 0 and you're adding up to a different number. Right. You could like have, you could like combo into other cards that way. But there is something to note, like there is a 5 glory score for holding objectives here, and that is your warband holds each objective or they add up to 15, which means that you have to hold like 5, 4, and then make one a 6, like right, like which I don't really know how you do that when it's only 5 objectives on the board, but
yeah, you'd have to hold a bunch.
Or mathematician just needs to figure it out.
You flip all but 1.
Yes, and that's what I was getting. There is flip tech in here. If your warband has flip tech, or you have a disposable fighter like the fish, maybe you can do this.
Yep.
There are other upgrades that do allow you to manipulate the board state, like move objectives here, flip them there, change the value of them, getting to go to 6. A lot of those do break. So Watchful Eye does not break, like it stays on. The other one, Unhallowed Aura, does break, so it's like a one-time only thing. You have Helping Hands, which you can kind of swap objectives around. So there are tools to get this crazy math problem to fire. But that leads me to, what kind of boards do you want to place for this type of Rivals deck?
Whatever fits what warband you're using.
And you probably don't want any special hexes on your board.
Nope.
That way you have as much flexibility when it comes to putting objective tokens or getting objective tokens on your board as possible.
Correct. And that, I think that plays key into the next question, Jerod, right? So no hazard hex, no blocked hexes, nothing on there that would block.
No cover. You don't want any cover, lethal, stagger, or blocked hexes on your board.
Because what's its play style, Trace?
Hold objectives.
Correct. Which means that you want that an open placement of those objectives on your board, and those hazard hexes can block that placement.
Yep.
And that kind of is what is really cool to me about this deck. Is for a long time now, board roll off, in my opinion, I very rarely, given the Rivals decks that are out there and that the Nemesis format, will never place the first board.
Yeah.
Because I like to pick engagement, and typically an objective is going in the center somewhere, given the Rivals decks we have. I think this may be the first deck that if I'm playing this deck, whether it's in Rivals or Nemesis, place the first board so I can take 3 objectives and really try to get those objectives on my side to help me score my deck. And I really think that's a cool addition to the game.
I like it.
So how do you play against this deck?
You get on the objectives.
Get on the objectives or remove objectives.
Or flip them.
Yeah. Just be careful that they don't get like 5 glory for free because they're standing on 1 objective.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, this would just be a complete harmony at that point.
It would be.
New player rating?
I think it's got to be bronze. I don't think it fires as cohesively all as one deck. I think this is going to be an excellent.
It'll like be an excellent
splash. With other warbands.
It'll be a good splash deck, I think.
But I don't think it fires quite concisely the way we would want.
Yeah, it is not as straightforward as the other Rivals decks that we've seen in the past, right? Even the ones like Terrible Toxins where you have to take basically the whole deck to get it to work. This one I really think shines in Championship. There's some really good cards in here that you can definitely take out because it's not plot locked.
That's right.
I do think getting into Nemesis, it is an option, but you definitely have to be committed to the play style, which leads me to our last question. What type of warbands want to play this? Because this is a style that we have not seen in Nemesis since its inception.
Yeah. So I think you want a decent number of fighters. You want action economy through moves. And you want fighters that want to be on objectives, warbands whose rivals deck want them to be on objectives anyway. So immediately springs to mind Sepulchral Guard, Starblood Stalkers, Decunning Crew, not because they want to be on objectives, but because they have the move efficiency. And then Ephelim's Pandemonium. Because they already want to be holding precisely 9 anyway.
And they already have some Calculus Clairvoyance in their deck.
Yeah. So
hold 9. Hold objective numbers
9 objectives
that have the total that equals 9.
Yep.
And then they also have a bunch of objective token manipulation where you can swap objectives around with a ploy and stuff. So there's a lot of really good things that they can do. And they really all have range. So they can stand on objectives and still be attacking.
Yep.
Which is good.
So is there, because I think all of those are great options, but I think the other option you have to look at is there anyone that's really hard to remove from the board? And is that a 4 fighter warband? Is that a 5 fighter warband? I don't think going to 3 that there's just not enough bodies, but is there anybody out there that just kind of does what it's going to do? And, maybe that's Thunderix Profiteers.
Thunderix would be good with this deck too, for a lot of the same reasons that we talked about with Ephelim, where they have some good push cards in their deck where they can push onto objectives. They have some good resilience cards where they can just turn anything into minus, just 1 damage flat the next turn. So your odds of getting removed from the objectives are lowered, and they all have range. Yep. So yes.
You have Thorns that have pushes, and then what about Lady Mournflight? I mean, recently in our local league, we've seen how 2 dodge can really stand up, and they kind of I think this is like the splash pick, right? I want to be a crazy mathematician. I'm picking this bad boy today, and let's see what we can do. Really fun.
I think the thing that we're seeing with Lady Harrow coming back is just her mobility, their mobility and being able to just ignore everything and move around the board with a high high movement. Yeah. It just allows them to be anywhere. So, so they're a good pick too.
Yeah. And my last but not least, because the reason we're picking so many warbands is because it is going to take a lot of work to get this deck to fire in the Nemesis format. You're really going to have to pick or choose, and it's going to have to pair with what you're already trying to accomplish. Would be Storm of Celestis, right? 4 fighter warband. They want to stand on objectives. They're going to shoot you at range. But that really ends our math class. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me for the review of that Prophecy of Paths Rivals deck. With that, we're going to take a break and come close out the show a little later.
And we're back, and that will wrap up the 52nd episode of the Battle Mallet podcast. We want to say thanks for taking the time to listen. If you want to refer us or recommend us, we're found on every podcasting platform available. If you have not liked, subscribed, reviewed, we appreciate that. It just helps get our content out to anybody else that might be interested. Please check out the Nemesis library, battle-mallet.com/nemesis-decks, I believe. The link will be in the show notes. If you have a deck that you've put together that you would like to share with the greater Underworlds community, we would love to hear from you. You can find us on Twitter. We're Battle Mallet 1. On Instagram, we're Battle Mallet PCast. We're Battle Mallet Podcast on Facebook. And I think that's it.
What's Twitter? I thought it was X.
Oh, X. I'm sorry.
Come on now.
Oh, Lord.
I know, right? I don't think we have any major community shout outs. If you're going to be at Nova, I think ideally we'll get an episode out again before Nova. But in case we don't, if you're going to be at Nova, hit us up. You can message us on Facebook. You can message us on Instagram. You can message us on X, I guess.
All those things. If you're looking even if
Discord,
in the Discord, even if you're just looking for a random Rivals pickup game, we'll be hanging out in the Board Game Lounge, Cantina, whatever it's going to be called this year. We'd love just to, whether it's a teaching game or just playing for fun, get with us. That's the thing I'm looking forward to the most.
Yep. Sweet. So for the Battle Mallet podcast, we are a mathematician, a prophet, and a calculator. This is Jerod signing out.
That was Jay signing out.
And I'm Jason Tabledew Murray. Class is out. Peace.
Go Bills.
Get the hell out of here.
The Battle Mallet podcast is protected under the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find more information via links on podcast.battle-mallet.com. Music by Anno Domini Beats.
What up, gamers? Welcome back to the Battle Mallet podcast. We're three dads, haven't recorded in 2 months. We talk shit for the first 30 seconds of this episode, and then we ramble on about knowing what we don't know about the game. All right, sweet. I'm Jason Tabledew Murray, and I'm joined tonight by... Oh, we don't want to use that one? Okay, good. Go.
No, because I'm going to have to bleep it out. If you had managed to get through it without dropping anything, we would have run with it, but...